So in the middle of this mega soap opera between Roma and Cristiano Ronaldo, obviously we need to think about other moves of the transfer market as well. And now that we kind of identified the players which we'll be trying targeting in the midfielder area, the attention has slowly shifted to the defense. Now, I would like to say, however, that I think Mourinho knows this. The defensive section, as much as it does need to get improved, I think it's the one out of the three sections, so attack, midfielder and defense, which needs the less kind of dismantling, if you see what I mean. I think the midfielder is very important. The attacking side is important because Tammy needs support and we need a replacement for Mkhitaryan when he played as an attacking midfielder. But I do obviously think that the defensive section does need to be touched, does need to kind of, get touched. Few things need to get improved. But overall, apart from the goalkeeper position, it's the position which I think needs less fussing on. But nevertheless, Mourinho has obviously identified some players which could potentially turn down to be the players that this defense needs. And the most important thing is that obviously Mourinho wants them. The most important thing is that Mourinho's satisfied with these decisions. And the second most important thing is obviously to not go completely out of budget in the defensive section. I think to satisfy the defensive section, we kind of need to buy players, but I don't think it's necessary to pay a lot of money for some defensive players. I think the defense next season will base around Chris Smalling, and this is something which I've said since quite a long while. I think the defense needs to be built around Chris Smalling. Now, anyone who says Smalling is too old, anyone who says Smalling is too old again, or anyone who says Smalling isn't at the standards that this club needs, I hope you're joking. Smalling is the most underrated player in the league, in my opinion. If we did not have Smalling playing last season, God knows where we would be right now and what we would be talking about. So the defense, without a doubt, needs to be formed around Chris Smalling. And please, anyone who says Smalling is a substitution player, please, let's behave. Because when Smalling plays well, when Smalling in the Conference League final has the potentials of being the best player in the team. If Smalling continues with the consistency of this season, so less injuries, turning up to big matches, and if he performs in that way against small clubs as well, which was one of the biggest reasons of why we lost so many points against these clubs, I think, and if we can get a few players to put next to Smalling, I think our defense is great. Our defense is perfect. And it needs to be centered around Chris Smalling, who's got the experience to play in a way more tougher league than the Conference League. Obviously, we were playing in the Europa League. And we also need someone who's got the leadership. And that is exactly the identikit of Chris Smalling. Leadership, experience, and just amazing when it comes to defensive skills. And I think buying players around Smalling not only will secure defense, but just like it happened this season, which our defense wasn't too bad, I think anyone who you buy and you put next to Smalling will learn. Because Smalling is very much the guide and the torch to these defenders. You know, Mancini performed well this season when Smalling was next to him. Ibanez performed well this season when Smalling was next to him. We've seen when Ibanez and Mancini both are like when Chris Smalling is not playing in between them. They are just asterisks and obelix. That's the real definition of Ibanez and Mancini when Smalling's not in the middle of them. Smalling is a guide. And the two players which Mourinho has identified to try and be good substitution... not substitution players. Because I think if we buy one of these two defenders, either NDICKA or LENGLET, I think they will definitely be starting players. And I think Ibanez will definitely therefore be a substitution player. I think Mancini and Smalling are confirmed. Mancini's got that fighting spirit. and we talked about Smalling before. Our third defender, obviously, is the one which has a big question mark, which is Ibanez and obviously Kumbula. So obviously, as fullbacks, we've got Spinazzola, Korsdorp, we've got Zalewski, and we've got this bloody Cilic, which we can't. He's still very close, but we can't seem to. It can't seem to be. Leo can't seem to accept this, and it is such a short distance between us and Leo. Basically, 1 million is bangling between the two sides, which it looks so easy to be convinced, but yet Leo still doesn't say yes. That's the problem. So yes, Cilic will most probably become a Roma player, but still, it's been more than a week now that he has to come, and he still hasn't come. So that is definitely to consider. So obviously, if Cilic, at the end of the day, if Cilic kind of dismantles and doesn't happen, then we obviously need to point our eyes on someone which can kind of play with Korsdorp or take Korsdorp's position. But the big question mark obviously lays on Ibanez, because Ibanez this season, as much as he played a lot, he was never really convincing. Ibanez, loves having his floppy days. And right, the two players which Mourinho has identified, has kind of warned Thiago Pinto about, are NDICKA and Lenglet. Now, out of the two players, I think it would not take a genius to understand who the better player is. NDICKA is clear of Lenglet, in my opinion. NDICKA obviously is I say way younger. We'll look at Lenglet's statistics. I'll put them on the screen a bit. But NDICKA is very, very young. 22 years old. Won the the Europa League, Eintracht Frankfurt is a team which won the Europa League not because they had a big standout player which made them win the conference. Europa League, you idiot. Europa League. So it's not like saying, right, Real Madrid won the Champions League because Modric, Benzema and Vinicius Jr. carried it all. Eintracht Frankfurt won the Europa League and they didn't have a standout player. It's because the team played well, and NDICKA played a big part in that Europa League victory. He obviously was their main defender. He's French, and he's valued around 20 million euros. Now, I think there can be an agreement between the two boards between around 15 million euros. I think we could convince Eintracht Frankfurt to do so and to lower their value by a tiny bit. I think paying 50 million for NDICKA would be a bargain, just because of the player he's become at Eintracht Frankfurt. And there are two factors which kind of lay on our side. One factor obviously is he's coming from a massive Europa League victory, and that obviously plays well with his mentality. He's coming, he's boosted, he wants more, he wants to win more, and he now understands and grab European experience. But second of all, which can be easier for Eintracht Frankfurt to lower their value in a potential negotiation between the two sides, is the fact that NDICKA has said that he wants a new experience and is ready to change air and get away from Eintracht Frankfurt. So that is definitely something which can help us and Eintracht Frankfurt to find an agreement under a lower price, because as I said before, if we manage to convince Eintracht Frankfurt to buy NDICKA for around 50 million euros, I think personally it would be an absolute bargain. And if we can sort out NDICKA, place him next to Mancini and Smalling, our three centre-backs at the back would be complete. And then obviously that means that we do have substitution squad depth as well, with Ibanez, with Kumbula, and if we buy NDICKA, I think our only big question mark then we solve in the defensive midfielder section is the fact that it's someone to kind of take Korsdorp's position when he's tired, or play before Korsdorp. If we get a centre back, then the attention in the defensive section will definitely shift to the right back, because Korsdorp does need someone which can rotate him, because we've seen how Korsdorp, he played basically every single match and he was tired this season. We could definitely see him how much he dropped at the end of the season. So that's it. So NDICKA is definitely the first option, and I think it's the option which Mourinho wants the most. He's also very physical and very, very tall. And something else we can add is the fact that Mourinho has specified that he would much prefer a left-footed centre-back than a right-footed centre-back. And NDICKA, physical, tall, left-footed, perfect identikit, isn't too expensive, and that's just the way it is. So Ndicka, in my opinion, would be perfect. Absolutely perfect signing in the defensive section. The second option, let me get it on the screen right now, is obviously someone which you already talked about again, Clément Lenglet. Another French player, so both are two options or French national teams. National teams. Both French, not national teams. They don't play the national team, but they are both French. However, Lenglet is a bit more expensive. He's 27, not expensive, he's a bit more older, that's what I was trying to say. He's 27 years old and compared to 22 years old from Ndicka. He's valued around 15 million euros. He's French, and he's obviously a defender. Now, I think here, out of the two deals, without a doubt, this is easier than the other. Not just because I think Lenglet has got less European attention from other clubs. Lenglet is interested by Tottenham and Sevilla are both interested by Lenglet. And other than that, there isn't much European competition. But the big reason why I think this is an easier deal than the other one is the fact that Barcelona need to sell. Now, Barcelona are planning to obviously redraw their entire image, redraw their entire team with young players, and they have obviously cut down their project to some players which will have to be sold. And one of these players is Lenglet. Barcelona need to sell. They aren't anymore, they are still very rich, but they aren't anymore one of the richest clubs in the world. Therefore, they need to sell. Sell, sell, sell. And Lenglet, realistically speaking, is a useless player for Barcelona. They don't need him. They don't need him. He doesn't want them. That's a perfect motive to break apart, to break up. And that is where I think if Barcelona really need to sell him, they could potentially even decrease their value even lower. Now, he's currently valued around 15 million to 20 million, just like Ndicka. But again, Barcelona need to sell. And if there's a negotiation between Thiago Pinto and their side, and they really need to sell, they can lower the price to around 15 million, 13 million. And once again, it's not too bad for a player who's got experience, obviously. Did he play in the World Cup, which they won in 2018? Even if he didn't, obviously he's French, he's got the experience to play alongside very experienced players. He is a Barcelona player, and Barcelona love European tournaments and that stuff. I think, I'll be honest with you, I think we have an option which, I think they're two very different players, because Ndicka is way taller, he's way more physical than Lenglet. But at the same time, I obviously prefer Ndicka, but if we can get Lenglet for around 10 million, 13 million, again, that's a bargain. That is a massive bargain. So I think both of these players would be great if we can get them for a tiny bit, for a price which is lower than their original value. I think both of them would be great. I think both of them would learn a lot from Smalling, and both of them would bond well with Smalling and Mancini. And again, I think Zalewski, Lenglet, Smalling, and Mancini, or Lenglet, or Ndicka, Smalling, and Mancini, I think would be perfect. And the second we buy one of these players, I think we can move on to improve another section, and that means that our defense is complete. And you see, that's I think they aren't too bad. Both options. I would prefer Ndicka 100%. But yeah, I mean, once again, we don't decide. Mourinho decides who he wants. Out of the two, obviously Mourinho does want Ndicka more. He has personally expressed this to Thiago Pinto. But we cannot hide the fact, and this is very important, because people might think, now that I've said, right, I prefer Ndicka, people might think, right, Ndicka's the priority and Lenglet is a backup option. It kind of does work like that, but at the end of the day, it's not like that. Mourinho does prefer Ndicka to Lenglet. He has expressed this to Thiago Pinto, but Mourinho is also very, very, very interested in Lenglet as well. So he's kind of given these two players to Thiago Pinto and the Fredkins to financially reflect on, and then the best one they give to Mourinho. Because again, if we spend this links back to what I said at the start, which is the fact that I think our defensive section needs the least kind of touching and buying out of all the sections. This links to the fact that if we spend less money on our defensive section, which at the end of the day doesn't need drastic changes, then we can afford to spend more money on positions which we need more. And that is definitely it. So, who starts next season, Spina or Zalewski? That's a very big question. If I were Mourinho, I would kind of be panicking there, because they're two massive players, as we've seen this season. An option is obviously to start them both, Zalewski on one side and Spinazzola on the other side. But the thing to note is that Zalewski doesn't belong on the right-hand side. So again, it would take him time to adapt. He has played on the right-hand side against Torino in the last match. Spina next season is ready. This season we haven't seen Spina, and we've seen Zalewski play over Spina just because Spina wasn't ready. But next season he is ready, and Spina Prime and Zalewski Prime are both amazing players. But if we can start both, if Mourinho can explain to Zalewski that he needs to conquer that side, he needs to play on that side, and that side is his. It does take him time to adapt on that side, but if we play both Zalewski and Spina, we've got two trains going on both sides. So, and that does also mean that we have got both the two fullbacks have got substitution players. So Korsdorp and Vinia, or obviously if we buy Cilic, then Zalewski can be a substitution to both sides. Cilic can be a substitution to both sides. So that's definitely something to highlight. People asking about Ronaldo. It's tough. It's very, very tough. We will know if there is something going on in the next 2 days, because if there is something happening, then we need to buy him before the 30th of June. If we really want him and he wants Roma, then we need to buy him before the 30th of June because of the growth decree thingy, which means that he would pay less taxes here in Italy. 30th of June is in 2 days. So we'll know by then, but it remains a very hard deal. It does remain a very, very, very hard deal. But you see, I think it's not... People think, right, that is made to kind of wind fans up. And part of it is, because it remains a very complicated deal. But I believe that there is something behind this, which potentially something as a secret deal, which has been going on between the two sides, which doesn't necessarily mean that it happened and it's confirmed and Ronaldo joined Roma. But I think, in my opinion, there has been an attempt from Roma to sign Ronaldo. And again, that does not mean that he will join, but I think my opinion is that behind everything, there has been an attempt from Roma to sign him. But we will know in the next 2 days. That's, I repeat. So that is it. Let's see some other questions. Smalling is good, but if we want to win the league, why not get Koulibaly? Yes, we could go for a bigger player like Koulibaly, but that does mean, as I said before, spending more money, a lot of money, because he's worth a lot, on a position which we don't need a lot of fussing on about. We don't need a lot of touching. Defensive section has been one of the best this season. They've been playing really well. So if we buy Koulibaly, yes, okay, our defense might get better, but that means 40 million out of potential signings in the midfielder and attacking section. So we need to be strategic here. Yes, Koulibaly might sound tempting, but you need to calculate at least 40 to 50 million to sign Koulibaly. And that means that you're dragging 40 to 50 million euros away from the midfielder section or the attacking section, which in my opinion need way more fussing around than the defensive section. Zalewski's right-footed, so it's not ideal to play on the right, but if he can cross from the right better than Korsdorp, put him. Yeah, it will take him a lot of time to adapt, and I think one of the few things which we said is that this season we have to start straight without too experimenting, and Mourinho knows this. So, who knows? But playing both Zalewski, and if Zalewski understands that concept and Spinazzola on the two sides, it would be perfect. It can be based on Smalling the next 2 years, but not built. Too old and injury prone to build. Base it on him and develop a deputy, says Brandon Victor Dixon. Right, one thing I will add, and then I'll end the stream, and I really would like to say this. Next season, we are stepping in this area with an objective, which is a straight objective without overhyping anything. We're stepping into the season not going right and fighting for the league. We're stepping into the season going and fighting for top 4. If we stick too many expectations, then season will be a failure. This season, the objective was to get Europa. I mean, it was to get Champions League, but we won the Conference League. This season, it was all about winning the Conference League, and we did it. It's a matter of step by step. So next season, it's Champions League. And after that, we can think about the league. But not immediately. So that's something I would like to point out. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll catch you soon with more updates, more transfer news. So if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're like 10 subscribers away from 4,600 subscribers. So subscribe if you haven't already and share the link with your families and friends. Also make sure to smash the like button in this video and follow me on Instagram over there in the orange box over at Simon_AS or _. By the way, I need to show you something. Let me quickly get it. For the records, ladies and gentlemen, let me just cover. Right, for the records, I have placed a €2 bet on Ronaldo joining Roma. Call me crazy. It's just to give you an example, right? If you were to place this bet 3 months ago, with €2, you would probably around €200. Right now, with €2, if this happens, you would win €8. That puts to perspective how much the odds are low for this. So I did it. And here, again, it's about the records. It's about the memories. Because I'm telling you one thing. If that thing happens, this piece of paper is worth millions of euros. And just to keep it, believe in yourself. Hope, belief. Yeah, who knows? But I did it.